Welcome back to EDH on a Budget. I'm your host Iceman, and today we're going to be going over the final way blue can ramp with lands. First up, we have Reshape. So this sorcery has cost blue X as an additional cost to play Reshape, sacrifice an artifact. Not very hard in artifact heavy decks, which blue has got loads of artifact synergy. This card costs $2.50, so it's a little bit more pricey than most of the cards I suggest. But a lot of artifact decks are already going to be running this, so keep in mind if you're running this that you can search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less and put it into play. So assuming you have an artifact that you can sacrifice that you played on turn 1 or whatever, you can pay blue X 0 and you can search for an artifact card with converted mana cost 0 and put it into play. So if you have artifact lands for that X0, you can literally put it into play. This could be like a blue rampant growth, or actually no, because this comes in play untapped. So I guess it'd be more like a Farseek in a way. And I know people are always caught up on, but no, I want to use this for my win con on turn 8. But if this is turn 2, then it's kind of a dead card for 6 more turns. You want to have the flexibility of using this early. So if you're using this in a deck, I would definitely throw in some artifact lands, just to try to get that advantage. And especially if you're in mono blue, it doesn't have to be played in mono blue. This could be used in multicolor decks as well. Next up we have War of Invention. This card is dropped in price a little bit. It is $2.60. It's an instant for blue, that's 3 blues, and an X. And it has improvise, so you can use your artifacts, tap them, and it'll reduce the generic mana cost by 1. You can search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Again, this can be used to grab an artifact land and put it into play untapped. So it is 3 blue pips, which is a little steep, so it's going to be a little harder to play this in a multicolor deck, especially if you have 3 or more colors. Maybe consider it for 2, assuming you're leaning much more heavily on the blue side of things. But more than likely, this would be a mono blue ramp spell. And after that, we have Search for Azcanta. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. It is $2.80. This card's been around for a while. It's an enchantment for 1 in blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put it into your graveyard. Then, if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform, and it transforms into a land. It has an activated ability where you can look at the top 4 cards for 3 mana and tapping it, blah blah blah. Regardless, it's a land, and I mean, you're probably not going to have 7 cards on turn 3 if you played this on turn 2. But it's also not very hard to get 7 cards in your graveyard. So it's very likely to trigger. It's not really high on the threat list in terms of would it be removed before it flips. There's also the Everflowing Well. This is only 20 cents. Costs 2 in a blue. This legendary artifact has, when the Everflowing Well enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards, then draw 2 cards. And it has descend 8 at the beginning of your upkeep. If there are 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, transform the Everflowing Well. So descend 8 is a little high. You do need to work a little bit for it. Having extra permanents in your deck wouldn't be bad, instead of being purely a spell slinger. This, allowing you to draw 2 is great. Gotta have draw, and the discard, or what the mill 2 is great because it helps feed into the descend. And the flip side, if you were to descend with it, is a legendary artifact land. It taps for blue, And when you cast a permanent spell using the mana produced by this land, up to one target permanent you control becomes a copy of that spell until end of turn. So the interesting thing is blue has lots of ways to untap lands. Well, there'll be cards that say draw 2, discard 2, untap 2 lands, something like that. So you can use that ability multiple times, so that's kind of interesting in that aspect. Descending 8 can be pretty easy to do, especially because blue has lots of ways to draw and discard at the same time, so you're not losing card advantage, and there's lots of ways to mill cards. So I mean, it's probably not going to happen on turn 3, but I would imagine if you build the deck right that it should be pretty easy to have that land by turn 5 or 6. And that is it. That is how I would ramp with blue on a budget if you specifically wanted lands. There's also lots of artifacts and mana dorks. That could be another video for another time, but thank you for tuning in, and please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.